third in best preschool or something, and first in best middle school or something like that.
I'm surprised the festival of trees that that's the biggest fundraiser in the community.
Which one?
The YMCA.
Oh.
We raised more than 200,000 in the last several years.
But we're competing with all time.
Yeah.
Also, so, you know,
That's
Williamsburg and everything.
Chesapeake County, that's awesome. Were you there Saturday night?
Yeah,
I heard it was pretty cold in that tent.
it was a little chilly. Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and turn you all over, I've got one person.
I told, I
Oh,
saw
Jimmy's-
Mike Kennedy, and he said, you know, the person that got the $100 put in, they picked their company. I didn't think that was fair, so we just said, okay, we'll auction it.
He had another one right on the
Yeah,
fly.
that was great.
Which was really nice. Now, they had, just on the funding item, they raised 78,000.
Hey, Jimmy. Jimmy, can you hear me okay? Hello?
Wait a minute,
Oh, okay.
still, trying to figure why this is not working.
Here comes Susan.
Hello, Susan.
Oh, I was looking at the screen. Hello, Susan, good morning.
I never heard anything from Ty Brent.
Are you texting Jimmy?
No.
Oh, you want me to text him?
Oh, Jimmy is on the,
Oh, he is on, good.
yeah. So Jason is here because I talked with him earlier. And Bill Lee, I think, is supposed to be here. And Bill is usually never late.
Hmm.
I'm having trouble getting sound coming in, so I don't know what it is.
All right. You have a visual with Jimmy?
Yeah, I've got a visual, but I don't have the sound.
The visuals can look really ugly.
Especially if he's in spandex.
Right, yeah, yeah.
You didn't hear y'all talking about it.
Nice.
Hey,
That
Jimmy,
cracked him
this
up.
is nice. We can
Nice.
talk to you and you can talk back. It's like the perfect scenario.
The perfect conversation with Jimmy? No, no.
I hope you heard that, Jimmy.
Yeah, we
That was Jeff, Jimmy, just to be clear.
I think Jimmy's in his yoga outfit.
Oh, God.
You have your yoga pants on, Jimmy?
All right.
Tell him we can't hear him.
Hey, Jimmy, I don't, we cannot hear you. So I'm sorry about that. And
So
maybe you could
unmute.
send a signal to,
We can unmute
To us.
his audio. He's probably on mute.
No, he's unmuted, it's just that the problem is not him.
Oh, okay. Problem's not you, Jimmy, it's here.
I still figuring out where the issue is.
all right. We're trying to figure out what it is.
Is this your breakfast hour?
Today it is.
Today it is.
It's normally later, but today has gotten off to a kind of a crazy start, so.
I was talking, saw in Walgreens last night, the lady that I go to church with, Carolyn Young. On Monday, Apple computer crashed, dead, and the next morning she woke up, her iPhone crashed. I went, oh boy, that's bad luck, you know, back-to-back days.
That's-
And then Apple just
Expensive,
announced that they're killing the iPods too. I mean, not that they weren't dead, but
Right.
yeah, they're going to discontinue production support. So we should expect a new toy somewhere soon from Apple.
And it's not going to be inexpensive.
That's right. That's right. It will be the new, you know, if it was the watch, maybe it'll be just a chip. We can embed the little chip. I don't,
That would be too, that wouldn't add to their bottom line much.
no, probably not.
I know my phone is, I think next year
Okay,
is the last year they'll do
Is
the
it-
8s.
I need an upgrade badly right now.
Glenn, Jimmy says that Ty is on, and he says he can hear me.
All right, the tie is great, it's called, and I don't have any.
Well, Jimmy, if
Good.
he didn't have his yoga pants on so tightly, he wouldn't be having.
Go ahead and
trouble
put Jimmy
talking.
on the screen up there for a moment.
Those are spandex.
Hey, Ty,
What a
I hope
visual,
you
huh?
can hear us.
Oh, there's
Ah,
a
there he
Jimmy.
is.
Hey,
He doesn't
Jimmy,
look happy now.
Jimmy?
Hi, Jimmy.
can you hear? I don't know if he can see me or not.
I wonder if he can hear us.
Jimmy,
Jimmy?
can you hear us?
Perhaps not yet.
Oops, wrong one.
I think he just,
Well, I think he must have dropped off.
yeah, he dropped, I think he dropped off.
Gotta love technology. 2 years into the pandemic and we still can't get it to work like we want it to.
We had a power outage over the weekend, I think that probably has something to do with it.
Can you hear us, Jimmy?
No. Can't hear us. I wonder if he has muted himself again too.
Mhm.
Sound and audio.
He's muted
He's
himself.
definitely muted there.
Yeah.
Red microphone.
Not hearing us.
He's nodding his head, though. So the tunes must be good at his house.
That's Jimmy, can you hear us?
Hey, Jimmy, can you hear us?
I'm texting.
Are you even on? I got a green light. Oh, you got a green up there, okay. At different microphones. Mike said when they did the second bidding for the, for the condo at Key West, $5,600.
Did it really? I lost track. That was so generous of him to do that.
Yeah. Well, he said immediately, he said he looked at Tom and he said, that's not fair.
Yeah, I didn't
These people
realize-
want this thing and they got it for $100. We need to put another week on. That was very generous.
I met his brother, is it Tom?
Tom, yeah.
Nice guy.
Tom had an advertising agency, Kennedy and Green. He had an advertising agency. He's a smart. He's a great presenter. Oh, yesterday I went to the Duggan Farms. And
I'm gonna
there's
have, I'm gonna have to.
a young black guy, when I say young,
That's the
probably
only thing I can think of.
maybe 50,
Reboot.
maybe 45. Smart. He was helping out.
I'm
He's
starting
helping.
up again right after
He just moved here from New Jersey. He said, I grew up here. He said, I gotta get back here. Wow. We had a football scholarship. I mean, a basketball scholarship. Nice, really well spoken. He said, I'm worried about our kids here. He said, they seem a little wild. He said, I want to do it some kind of mentor program or something. He said, how can I connect with the community? And he said, I want to give back to the community again. Smart. Well spoken. His name's Ray, so we got our contact information. So I looked, he said, are you on the mailing list? And I said,
I don't
"No,
think I do."
dropped off somehow. So he said, well, just sign up right here. And I looked, Donna Anderson's number. She had just been in. I would have put him in
Yeah,
contact with Donna.
Yeah.
This
Glenn
is gonna be
is
great.
rebooting.
And when I said,
And we'll see what we can do.
I looked and we
You said
talked
you saw
about it.
contract out there on there?
He's really concerned about it. And he said, I love the quality of life. I live in New Jersey. He said, yeah, he's got a 19-year-old that lives in Atlanta.
Is there,
And he said,
I don't
he said, I moved back here. He said, I was in New Jersey. He said, I was making $140K a year.
Can you conference
And
him?
I moved back here. Don't even know what the prospects are for making money. I don't really care. The quality of life here is so good. He said, I just had to get back to my community.
Wow.
So I'd love
What's
to
his name?
get
Now
Ray
is,
Waddy, W-A-D-D-Y, Ray Waddy.
Oh, wow.
He
Have
went
you
to
seen anything
Lancaster.
yet?
His mother was a teacher at Lancaster.
You can see me
Can
now.
I start talking about the school system?
Can you hear me? He hung up. Hey, Jimmy, can you hear me? Respond if you can.
Nope.
No.
Can't hear him.
Yeah, no, we can't hear you.
Jimmy, can you hear us? Raise one finger. Okay, you can hear us. Good. We're going to get you online in a second. Maybe you're muted on your end. Nope. We'll just do hand signals to all of our questions and answers.
Can you call Jimmy?
Watch out what
Hey,
you do there,
Jimmy.
son.
Jimmy, can you hear me? Can you call
can-
Ty Brent?
While this is going on, I think I'll probably rest here.
Jeff, not really, just, do you know if you're going to be at the opening of Music on the Half Shell on the
I
27th?
am, I've responded to,
Ashley, maybe?
about 2 weeks ago, she asked Amy
Mhm.
Wilson, and I told Amy I'm a go, so I think she knows I'm a yes.
Okay, that's great.
I'll be there. Something to do with the flag?
Mhm.
Okay.
We have the Kilmarnock Strong flag
Uh-huh.
that's flying above the town hall now. We'll take it down that Friday, and we'll have you in May.
Oh, fun.
Push that up on the, just as a part of the opener.
Excellent.
So,
How
and,
are,
and if you want to do some commentary too,
okay.
that's perfectly fine. We'll just figure out how to do that.
I haven't
You
heard
can run
from
off the
Billy.
stage up to May, and
I'll do a 30.
I didn't know if he responded to the message or not.
How are advance ticket sales, or do you even get those?
we sold either 100 or 100, somewhere around 100 season passes.
Awesome.
Most we've ever sold.
Great.
And we put those out for a month and then cut them off, and now Soul Expressions is, I think we got tickets launched on every individual concert now. So we're pimping those.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we had 100 season passes, which was just amazing.
Have we pushed
Hey,
any of
Jimmy,
that on our social?
if you can hear me,
Check with Paul.
The answer is I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
hel-
But feel free, you're welcome to, Paula's welcome to all the graphics and all that other, everything we got.
Okay.
Photos and all kinds of content. Got the link already set up for tickets.
Jimmy's calling me.
hey, Ty? Ty?
Yeah, Jimmy.
Hey, I'm sorry, we're having all these audio problems.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ty's calling you to get hooked in, and Jimmy's calling me to get hooked in. He's got
yeah.
Ty on the phone.
It, apparently there was a
Just
power,
wave you
there was a
up.
power outage out here, earlier. And we don't know if, he's trying to figure all that out right
We
now.
could hold,
While he's doing that,
we could hold Jimmy up to the mic.
you've got Jimmy on.
Jimmy's gonna stay
Hey,
on
Jimmy,
my
did you
speaker.
hear me?
Yep.
All right.
Already done.
Done.
Yeah, I can, and I actually can conference Jimmy in too. Yeah. Jimmy, can you hear?
Yeah, he can hear.
Yeah, you can hear me when I'm talking through the mic. And Ty, could you hear me when I'm talking through the mic? All right. Right, and that's the problem we're having. So I'm going to leave this line open, and I'm going to go ahead and get started,
Speak.
okay? Yeah, all right, I got you on my phone, and I'm going to keep the line open, okay? All right, so the Communications Committee the last month has been very busy. Can you mute, is there a way to mute yours?
Yeah.
Yeah. And with that, we talked to the Whitestone Town Council last week. I've had another meeting, a focus group meeting, And we're talking to the Irvington Town Council tonight. We also talked to the Irvington Business Association about 2 weeks ago. All the feedback I'm getting is positive. We're not learning anything new from the focus groups. Basically, everything that we've talked about that we need are the things that we're getting. Some of the things we really have a hard time addressing, and that's like convenient hours for restaurants and restaurants closing up on a certain day. And there's nothing we can do about that because of staffing issues. Like the other day, I think last Wednesday, the local was closed because they had no staff. And some of the new people in the community say this, you know, they're criticizing us for that. Jimmy had an awesome meeting with some folks from the housing department the 27th. And do you want to give us a little report on that, Jimmy?
Yeah, hold on.
Hold on, Jim. Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can.
You got your speaker on?
Hang on.
Yeah.
Talk away and we'll see. I cannot hear you, Jimmy.
Maybe put it on your speak, you have it on
It's on
speakerphone?
speaker.
Huh.
Are you turned all the way up?
Yep,
Huh. You could hear him
Go ahead.
earlier.
I can hear you go,
Yep.
Yep, we got you. We can hear you.
So, so I'm so I'm getting feedback. Yeah, and you know, we have opportunities.
I don't think this is up very
Well,
loud.
he's cutting off, because yeah, when we talk in
Hello?
here, the audio shifts to the meeting room, so we can't talk while Jimmy's talking.
Okay, so we should mute our mics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Jimmy, our mics, when we talk, we're cutting you off, so go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I don't,
We
I
can't.
can't really hear much volume out of this, I don't think it's up enough.
Yep.
We can hear you.
I thought we had, audio with here, earlier.
It's a little bit, but you can, I think the volume might need to go up, I don't know.
Cutting out for some reason, Jimmy. Can you hear me? I've got 4 bars. How many bars you have? You just dropped.
Try that again,
Hey, Ty, can you hear?
Testing, it's louder, yeah.
All right, well, we're trying to get up with Jimmy.
How many
here,
bars do you have on your phone?
And for some reason, he's not coming through.
Just refer to those written notes that I sent you.
Yeah, he's on just on right now.
He said, can we just refer to the written notes he sent with
All
the
right.
update? That's fine. Is
All
there
right.
anything you want to add to that? I can hear you now.
Just to say, we're working on a variety of grants, but that one big grant is one we're really keen up on.
All right, you were able to hear Jimmy? Okay. Now, are you hearing him from your, through your phone?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, Ty, on the 27th, we had.
Too many phones.
We had a meeting, with state officials, and, they offered us some potential grant opportunities and some support for, workforce type housing. And I don't know if you received a copy of that report, but that's what he's talking about. And, okay. Okay, yeah,
Oh,
yes, sorry.
one thing we could do possibly is get you on your laptop to join the Zoom meeting.
I'll just
on your
mute it.
laptop. And you got the volume turned up on it, maybe that'd be good enough to hear.
Okay, we're gonna try something else. We're gonna join the Zoom meeting on my laptop and see if we can get some, support that way.
We're gonna join The meeting on his laptop. Maybe we can get sent it.
Glenn just said we're gonna join the meeting through Paul's laptop, and we'll get the audio through there.
And then Jeff, just tell him that we will go to hand puppets after
Yeah,
this.
we're going to hand puppets, and then if hand puppets don't work, we're going to smoke signals. Okay, all right. And if you can't get anything, call me back. Do you want me?
Let's do it the county website.
So on a different but related subject for you and I told Don I would help him, help the county craft the VTC grant proposal that's due by the end of December for the however $100 and some thousand that the county's gonna get through Virginia Tourism. That's the ARPA money. And one of the things that requires is that we have a plan that we would then match the spends up to that plan. And the plans can be both marketing, which I've told Don, if we have a plan to push Lancaster County through social media, we would use the VRR platform.
Yeah.
And we can do the design work, we can do all of that campaigning. So I said, that's a no-brainer, check that box.
Yeah.
But one of the other boxes is product development. And product development could be trails, it could be water access, it could be all the things that you have on your recreation template, if you will. And so we need to kind of be fleshing that out pretty hard, because I would use that as the basis for, if we can get some money for product development, even if it's like, hey, it's gonna be signage for the Tramway Trail.
Yeah.
It all has to be committed by December of '23. So we have a full year, but we don't have 5 years
Yeah.
to do it. So I just think about the stuff that you already have teed up and how we can kind of spin that into becoming tourism product. And then,
Yeah, even just like we need new signage at our current sites that we have. I don't know if it's could do stuff like that
Correct.
too, but there's stuff that needs to be enhanced that we
Right.
already have that could possibly
exactly. And so just kind of think about that through what's,
be. But at this point, it's like it was telling Paul, it's a matter of getting action on the ground at this point because it's been so long and I'm at the point where I'm really, really frustrated that the staff is not getting the job done on anything. There's no ball moving anywhere. It's lots of talk, lots of meetings, lots of things, all the pieces in place, the money's there, the will and the board is there, but the staff
You
will,
gotta put those
the
together.
staff will to get these things off the ground or moving it all is not there. And at this point, if it doesn't reach some action, it's just like,
Okay, can we hear?
either this board needs to act or I'm gonna step away from this because
Yeah.
it's like, I mean,
You're right.
there's gotta be action.
Right. Well, and that's where I was, because Don, I said, Don, what are we doing? I'm here as the vessel.
Yeah,
And if you just tell me, go spend $60,000 on promoting museums and campsites and water access.
All right, I'm muted.
I can do that 24/7.
Okay.
Can-
Hey, can you guys hear me?
But if there's something else, just tell me, and I can build a plan around that too. So I think the work that you're doing in your subcommittee needs to absolutely dovetail with whatever.
Hey, Jimmy, will you talk, please?
Of us.
but if we don't start making progress, like on some of these projects, like at Women Point, those people are calling me now thinking like, we've been having major trouble down there after
Yeah,
the storm they just
it
had. And,
is.
like, if the county's not gonna act, we're gonna have to do it ourselves.
Right.
And we're gonna lose a lot of leverage here very shortly
Yeah.
because no action is taking place and
And that
we
would
have a
defeat-
permit in hand.
Try talking
and-
again,
and
Jimmy.
There's just been one excuse after another and it's just like, it doesn't, the excuses just sort
Right.
of can't happen anymore.
happen.
We've gotta get the
Yeah.
job done. The directors and executives.
I don't know why they're not.
are paid to get the job done and they have to work 25 hours a day to get the
I
job
usually
done,
don't have
and
any
that's
problem
just
with
what
this.
has
I'm
to
on Zoom
happen
meetings all the
At
time.
this point.
No, I understand, bandwidth is a huge, can be a huge barrier.
We're running into the
That's
same
how
problem
my-
even
my
coming
piece
through
that
my
I wrote for the
computer.
Tourism plan, and if the answer is you want me to spend it all on marketing, I can do that too. But I don't want to leave something,
Yeah.
I don't want to create a plan that is not
As far as
supported
Jim
by
is concerned,
other components that
Jimmy,
maybe I
maybe
just
you
don't have
just raise
visibility
your hand
for.
if you want to
Exactly,
say
yeah.
So
something.
just be
and I'll
thinking
call
about
you
that.
out.
I'm not anywhere near.
Right.
in a position
Did
to
you
plan
hear that, Jimmy?
Right now, I don't have the bandwidth right now.
Okay.
I will as in July.
Yeah.
All right.
And then I
Ty,
I
can you
put
hear me?
whatever motion at that point.
All right, so
Yeah,
they can hear you out there.
okay.
So they're just gonna have to be, silent participants right now, I guess?
And when Jimmy or Ty need to talk, they can just call one of us.
Right.
I've got to call into the, to the people that put the system in, they haven't responded back, so it's still.
We'll be fine.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get going. As I was saying, we have the Communications Committee has been very active, and the last draft 6 of the document to go to all homeowners in Lancaster was approved yesterday or the day before.
We approved it out. We approved it out of committee, and so I don't think the whole team has seen it yet, so we might want to share that today. I did not send it collectively all the way around, but we should be good to go.
Yeah, it's 99% of it was just some technical things that
Yeah,
we
I mean,
changed on.
the last, excuse me, the last draft of things that we had found that needed technical correction are done. We can send it out this afternoon to the entire committee just to take a last set of eyeballs on. But from our perspective, that's going right to Don for him to do what he does. So I think we're ready on that individual front.
Right. And we also, as a result of the communications that we are sending out, I've been getting a couple of phone calls from people wanting to help out, like Chris Cornwell called the other day and said that he'd like to be part of one of the committees, the Business Relation Jobs Committee. So I'm adding him to the committee, and I'm getting another committee meeting scheduled. The main thing that I want to discuss today is we are at a point where we need to start writing objectives for each strategy with companion goals that are attainable and measurable. Now, I don't know if I can get my PowerPoint up here because I did a example of one. Now he's not going to show it. But let me go ahead and do it. All right. So let's say we have, let's do recreation. Okay, this is the one I was doing with. So for the recreation committee. So we know we have we have this particular strategy, and that's to have age-appropriate recreation. And so one of the things Jason has been working on is water access, right? So an objective would be to create, say, 3 water access points in the lower county, right? That's you've been talking about, right? Mm-hmm. So an objective would be to create the 3 access water points in the lower county, right? And so now, what would be a tangible goal to associate with that? And so it may be to put timelines next to that, right? So a goal then for that objective would be to have one in place by 2023, right? And then maybe you say, okay, the 3 access points, 2023, 2025, 2027, something like that, right? So now you have written an objective to go along with the strategy that we have, and now you're establishing goals that we can measure and we can see if they come true, right? Now, there may be some financial goals that we need to put in with that because it's going to cost the county something to do that. But then say, okay, so we have this goal, but we also have been talking about creation of support facilities for public access, right? So another objective would be to create support facilities, right? Hey, Glenn, is there a way that you can put back on my presentation? So if you create, and we may, with the support facilities, which would, you'd need to share screen since I'm still online, right? Oh, he's talking. So what I have here create 2 support facilities for public access through public-private partnerships. So that may be the objective, right? We want to create 2 support facilities for public-private access, through partnerships. That partnership may be that you build the site, and as Bill Lee was saying, with one of the sites on Curtis Creek, there's already an old crab house there, or oyster house. You know, that may be the site, and we may want to do more with it, put in a museum of Waterman's Museum type facility or display there, a gallery, but also have it that you can rent kayaks, boats, things like that at that site. But we would need to see if we can promote a private individual, an entrepreneur, to rent that facility, and maybe we do it at a very low rate for them to get started. So I had here, create 2 support facilities for public access through public-private partnerships, and the goal would be to do one by 2023 and the other by 2027, unless you want to have 3 water access points. I'm just talking right now. I'm just trying to stimulate it. And then under recreation, we also have the Tri-Way Trail, Jimmy, right? So I have as an objective under recreation, create the Tri-Way Trail to include nodes for art, for exercise, maybe for science, where you can team up with the school system and the YMCA to do scientific projects there and that type of thing. So that may be an objective, to create the Tri-Way Trail to include nodes for art, exercise, and science. So that's the objective. Here are the goals, right? Goal, complete drawings, obtain rights of way, and define segments. 2022. 2023, maybe create a primary and contingent funding plan. Because I think we have to have 2 funding plans. One is if you can, whatever grant funding you can get, but we don't even know the total cost yet. So first of all right, hold on a second.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could I ask you to ask Jimmy to do another sound check for us?
Jimmy, would you do another sound check?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4.
You got
Hey.
it. Awesome.
We can hear from you.
Great.
Got it.
All right.
Thanks.
Hey, Ty,
Good
can
job.
you hear too? Ty Brent?
Is he still on?
Could you call Ty and tell him that we were all fixed?
I'll text him right now.
All right. Roy is going to text Ty and tell him to come back on the phone. All right. Now, can I get my presentation back up? All right, great. So Jimmy, can you see this?
Yeah.
All right. So here's the idea. We want to create objectives to go with each strategy, and there may be multiple objectives. Like here, I just started outlining what's possible under recreation, right? So you can see item 1, create 3 access points to the water in Lower County. A goal
Right.
associated with that, placing one years to have them established. Supports facilities. The Tri-Way Trail is a really interesting thing, Jimmy, because you have a lot of momentum going, and I can tell you from the focus groups, it is a big deal.
Right.
And we need to create some sort of momentum with it, but in order to do that, you need to have your drawings complete, your rights of way obtained, and if we're going to open it up in segments, to define your segments. This is going to be
Right.
segment 1, segment 2, segment 3.
Hello?
Right. Hey, Ty, you with us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, and we
Good,
can hear you too, buddy.
Good.
Good.
Hey, Paul?
Yes.
Paul?
I'll just text him.
So, Paul, I apologize, but one of the reasons I couldn't come in person is because I have an appointment with the lawyers at 11. I'm going to have to leave around 10:45. I wonder if I could just real quick sort of address some of those issues about the Triway Trail.
Sure.
Okay, so we are
It's old
intending to
school,
try to
like
open up
back in Windows days.
We're getting ready to right now, we're making an application in a couple of weeks for a grant to try to see if we can get the monies to complete the segment from the existing golf course over to Harris Road. That would essentially give us the first trail presence from Compass to Harris Road, the hospital road. So we're working on trying to get that done. So we're working on that grant now. We've got LPDA, our consultant, we've got all that sort of information, the preliminary cost model, the mapping. We don't have the rights of ways and things worked out. But under the, but we're working on those issues. The other thing when we talk about coming out of the meeting we had the other day, the CBRAC meeting we had with the 5 state agencies, we're going to be applying on July 21st, a grant is going to open up that Frank talked about at that meeting from the Virginia Department of Housing. He said we could get up to $200,000. We're going to go in for a comprehensive planning grant to help us with workforce housing issues. And I think that will also help us think about what might be appropriate uses for the Good Luck Road site to help Jason with the RFP. So they're the points I wanted to make.
Okay.
Jimmy, I have a quick question about the trail segments. You say you're working on the grants by that first phase. Do we have a preliminary, you said we have preliminary cost of what that first phase will cost to do?
Jason, the other day, this is about a 2,000-foot section from Harris Road over to the existing cart paths at Hills Quarter, sort of hooking into where the school's bought.
Yeah.
I had Earth Resources give us a down and dirty cost estimate the other day for what it would cost to take the trees out on the 40-foot right-of-way, to construct a 12-foot wide gravel path. That would be taking out the underlaying soils, put in base material, put down geofabric, and then put 6 inches of stone. The preliminary estimates were $160,000 to complete that 2,000 feet. So
Then let's
I
start
think that
tomorrow.
estimate. Okay, the problem is we can't, if we started construction, it would jeopardize our ability to apply for the grant. They said not to do anything before the grant was approved. So I've got a chicken and egg problem.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, when do we have the deadline on that grant?
The grant opens up on July the 1st, but I'll get clarification to see if there is a chance, if the county wanted to put some monies up, could those monies be used for match purposes? I don't want to disqualify the match purpose or jeopardize the grant by jumping the road.
Because that doesn't sound like
So-
too much money really to get that first piece done. And
So
Right.
Jimmy,
actually, that sounds really cheap.
yeah, well, it's because he's going to his existing cart pass, I'm sure. What we
Jason,
really-
I'll get with you on that.
What
Okay.
we really need, though, is if you come back, Glenn, to the presentation.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Oh, not when in Rome. That's
Thanks, Jimmy.
a community Bible study I'm doing. Okay, yeah, I'm going to take it down. All
You
right.
get a free trip to Rome.
Okay. So if you look at what I have there, we really need to get a handle on what this whole thing is going to cost. Because, like I said, it's a hot topic. But if it's going to cost $15 million, we got to figure out how to fund it by segment.
Right.
Right? We don't know how much
Right.
it's going to cost. But we got to figure that out. And if the Board of Supervisors is willing to put in some money to get started, what does their ultimate commitment need to be? So we really need to get the, you can see, a primary and a contingent funding plan together.
Well, In regards to that, aren't we supposed to be working on an RFP for engineering and studies to look at all these projects and try to give us some preliminary
Yeah,
stuff in
I'm
that?
saying we need to do that.
Where
And
does
that's
that
gotta be
RF
part of the plan.
Where does that RFP stand? I mean, these are questions for Don really, but where does that RFP stand? The board has approved to have that out, but here we are months now that's dragged
We
on.
missed our meeting to do a.
So let me say that RF, so under our agreement with our land plan designers, so LPDA, our consultant, they've done a preliminary cost estimate. And as much as it pains me to say this, they're saying that trails like this cost about $1 million a mile. And I'm going, how the hell could a trail cost $1 million a mile? So, but when we look at the Virginia Capitol Trail, that was like $1.5 million a mile. There are other trails. We went to a trail meeting the other day. The Fall Line Trail in Richmond is coming in at $2.5 million a mile. I mean, it's unbelievable what it's costing to build these trails. So we had a meeting. The consultant gave us a cost breakdown. Then I got Joe Pinnock, who's the head of Lehigh Paving, Danny Brown, and I'm trying to remember who else we had in that meeting. And I had them look at the cost. Everybody sort of said, we think these are high, but we can't refute these costs right now. So we do have some preliminary cost estimates that are putting the cost close to $1 million a mile. And
Yeah, so Jimmy, how many miles do you have?
So let's say if we went from Kilmarnock to Irvington, that's probably about a $6 million run.
Right. Yeah, so
And then we've
that's,
got to get,
yeah, I had talked to someone that said it was running $1 million a mile too. That's why I said we need
Yeah.
to know, if we're gonna be saying we wanna create the Tri-Way Trail, we need to know how it's gonna happen. We need to know, if it, we need to know a funding plan and.
right,
maybe
we have all
multiple
of that.
funding
We have
plans.
about 25 different grants laid out that we plan to go for. So we have a lot of these questions you're talking about already answered.
Yeah, okay, but we also need to start getting them down as objectives with strategies. Not strategies, but goals. So,
Right.
it may be that you create, you have this budget, and, from my experience in fundraising, and I'm sure from yours too, Jimmy, you know that the old 80-20 rule usually applies, that you'll get about 20% in grants and 80% from the community. And if we're talking about $10, $12 million, we need to know that up front because it may limit what our ability to function. to create.
Jimmy,
And Paul, I'm hoping in this case, because of the abundance of money that's out there for trails, that I'm hoping that model is going to flip, that we're going to get 80% grants and 20% local needs, but that's yet to be determined. I'm going to have to leave here in a second, but let me just say that we're hard on the case, and so I can do a fuller report in the future, but I think most of the questions you all are answered. We've got preliminary answers too.
Okay, well, we need to start quantifying those in objectives and then goals. Like you're going to present to the Board of Supervisors what the funding plans look like by X date, by the end of 2022. Open up, you can see here, goal
The meeting that I'm
2023.
leaving, the meeting I'm leaving to go to right now is to get the final language worked out on the dedication of the trail across my properties to the county. So we're getting close to doing that initial first transfer, and that will open us up to be able to go for this grant. We've got to have that right away in place to go for the funding grant that we were talking about a minute ago for the 2,000-foot connector.
Okay,
So I'm going to run. I apologize.
Thanks, Jimmy.
And I'll catch up with you later.
all right,
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thanks, Jimmy.
okay.
So, I mean, oh, go ahead.
You go ahead, Jason.
I just in terms of flushing this out, he just needs to basically, seems to me, write down and do a little bit what I've kind of done in a preliminary plan is you have a recreation as your goal. So create 3 water access points is the overall thing. And then the next goal to accomplish that would be like hire architectural engineering firm to do preliminary planning and set a date for that. Once that plan is in place, start to develop site 1, site 2, site 3, and then give deadlines and commitments of what has to transpire in each of those,
And-
such as like hire the contractor by this date,
And
break ground on this date.
Yeah,
And so you need to have that all refined down. I started to do that in my sort of preliminary work that I did, but those dates right now are,
Yeah.
we don't really have, it's hard to set goals and dates when we're not making any progress on the things we have to execute right now and can be executed.
yeah.
If we
Yeah.
set goals to accomplish them, say by June, and June arrives and we're no further along to accomplish it, we just move the date to August or September, and then September arrives, we're there again. And this is what's been going on for 2.5 years now. And we've got to get boots on the ground and start building. There's no reason why Thomas Landing work is not getting done. There's no reason why the RFP for these engineering is not released and in the process and working.
Right.
There's no excuse for this.
So Paul, I guess just the quick comment on the Jimmy piece to wrap that one up. I think the good news is Jimmy has LPDA, Land Planning Design Associates on board, and they should be able to deliver a full plan, soup to nuts, with what the project timeline is, what the expense timeline is, all of that. And we have the ability with this particular project to be much further ahead on all of that with a lead-out project that we've already got traction on. And Jimmy's got the resources with LPDA to deliver the information piece that I think the Board of Supervisors and even this team can rally behind. So I think we're further along with this project than anything else we've got kind of teed up.
Yeah.
And Jimmy's got a great resource, so we need to help him just leverage that to the fullest extent.
So if it costs $12 million to build, you know, that comes back, and he wants to get 80% funding through grants, that's going to take years.
Not,
And you
it
gotta
will be
have a
layered
full-time
funding.
grant
It will be
writer.
layered funding that he will more than likely use from the state. So you'll get X amount from community development and housing, which could be a planning grant. You could get this amount from Virginia Department of Housing. But what it will take, and what we learned at our meeting of the other week, is that it will take layering grants from multiple agencies. So that means that some of these projects may have to have a little bit of different scope in order to qualify for some of these funds.
I understand.
Okay, sorry.
All right, but what I'm also saying is, you can't depend on grant funding,
Alone, that's correct.
all right?
That is correct.
And we need to know, and the Board of Supervisors needs to know, if it's going to cost $12 million, give us, you can see here, a primary and a contingent funding plan. Because if the Board of Supervisors ultimately is not going to be able to pick up the slack and gaps, what are we going to do?
Yeah, because if one of those grants, some of them are competitive grants. And so you may ask for $100,000 and get 60. So we've got to have some contingency planning for the gap financing, if
I
you will.
think from a
Right.
Board of Supervisors standpoint, yeah, we kind of have an idea of what these different projects are going to cost. But also we can set our own goals to say, okay, over the next 10 years, the board is going to commit X number of dollars, $15 million for public access projects.
Right.
And then we can use that amount of money in the budget to figure out how we're going to allocate it into these projects and where it's going to go and how we can move which projects ahead at the fastest rate. Maybe this project over here is stalling for one reason, so we take the money we have and we make this project over here
Right.
work and be completed while we're still working out minor details over here.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. We got to have something in place for you guys to act.
Which, in my opinion, from my standpoint, requires the RFP that we've been working on for recreation to get that done so I can know what we can do at Windmill Point, what's going to happen at Thomas Landing, what's going to happen on the new site. All those can be laid out in plans and then give a cost estimate. And then once we have that, we can kind of say, okay, well, this is going to be $30 million. We don't have that. We only can commit 15. So what can we draw back from these projects to get it done?
Right.
That kind of thing needs to happen. And so that's where we are, and we just got to get the administration and the staff to get those balls rolling and moving, which right now they're not, and there's no reason why they're not. And so that's where we're kind of stuck. And we can plan all we want and do these things and write down the dates, but if we don't get the ball moving and get some boots on the ground and things actually accomplished that we can do right now, we're losing credibility by the day.
Yeah, I think with this
You need to talk a little bit into the,
What this plan needs to do, we're focused on recreation now, and say we should come up with a $15 million. Concurrent with that is gonna be some new school funding that the board's gonna have to juggle with this 15 million.
Exactly.
So this is gonna be like a document that sort of helps layer it all together.
right, and then you
That's
got the
right.
jobs, if we come up with incentives for bringing, expanding businesses and tax incentives.
In a way,
things
it's
like
almost
that.
like a capital improvements plan.
It is, that's exactly
It
what it
is,
is.
but that's what I'm saying,
You all-
we gotta get all this stuff together, and it's a lot of different moving parts.
Right, and we need to provide, like, I think the Public Education Committee, we need to be air traffic control for all these disparate things. Just a couple points, like, I'm all on board with all this. As a question, are we taking it from this committee and pushing it down to the subcommittees, or is it the other way around?
No, we're gonna push it down, that's what I'm saying, he needs to do this. I gotta go to my committee, and I've gotta work through that, and you're on that committee, and I think you are too. And, I wanna have a meeting within the next few weeks on that.
But I think, I think,
Because we need to do it at the committee level, bring it up to this level,
that's my point.
and then once it's up at this level, intermediate it with everything else.
Yeah, the objectives need to come from the subcommittee, so not from us.
Right.
I mean, we
Correct.
shouldn't be
No,
here
no, I
today.
was just using this as an
Yeah.
example.
I think
Right.
we just need to set a goal from this meeting, that the next meeting, that each subcommittee comes with a draft of their goals, strategies and stuff laid out for at least one or two of the things that they're actually already got
Right.
planned or working on. So let's start putting these things to paper. So Jimmy, in the case of the Tri-Way Trail, can lay out some of the couple of things that are going on that he's already got planned, just put it on paper and start to refine these levels down from strategy, goal, and then the dates and stuff.
That was the intent with that sample agenda, to try to
Right.
focus those committees on, here's our mission, get them to concur with their mission is, to say, here's, the matters to communicate, and also the initiatives for the next 90 days. We need to just go one step further and say, give us your goals and objectives, and then get those fed up to us, and then we'll play, the Public Education Committee really will play air traffic controller and report it to this board as I think. But I do think we need somebody from this overall umbrella committee to go to those subcommittees to not direct conversation, but capture in a format that's consistent that we can all use. Because I could see the Jobs Committee might have output entirely different from Recreation,
Right.
entirely different from schools. We need to sort of channel that communication so we can create a composite document that we can present to the Board of Supervisors. Because
Right.
if we don't control the inputs, it's gonna be garbage in, we're gonna spend all our time trying to organize it.
To that regard, I think we just need to go ahead and have a formal template, 2035 final document, so it's kind of laid out, so all the subcommittees have to do is go in, plop in their goal, plop in their strategies, plop in the next piece, and then define the dates, and that can just be a form
He's
document.
developed that, you got it,
The
right?
rudiments of it.
We've circulated that.
Yeah, no, that was for each subcommittee, but I mean like the final document template, so we can start feeding
Oh, okay.
those
Understand.
subcommittees, like I can start taking my recreation strategies that I have on my sheet and putting them on the final document.
Yeah, and then I've got one for you too. I indicated 2 meetings ago that I was gonna have this meeting with the Y, the Boys and Girls Club, and to look at the gaps. Of course, we had a meeting scheduled, and that's when Dan got injured or had a stroke. So I'm trying to reconstitute it, and I've got Jessica Davis on board now.
Is she gonna serve on this?
She's going to serve on this committee.
Okay.
And then Welby's going to represent the youth league. Liz Allen is representing the Y, along with someone from headquarters. And over at the Boys and Girls Club, what's his name? Philip. Thank you. Philip is going to, but trying to get all of them together. Emily, my assistant right now, is trying to nail down a meeting date in the next 2 weeks on that.
And that's under the jobs?
No, that's under recreation.
Okay.
I decided, I asked if I could take the lead on that segment to look at the gaps and see if we have any gap fillers. because ultimately what may come out of this, Jason, is the reconstitution of a Parks and Rec, either person as a coordinator or a department.
And I mean, that was listed in my initial plan
Right.
as something in the out years that we do
Right.
after we start developing some of these sites. Yeah, we're gonna need management.
Right.
And staff management of those sites.
Yeah.
Just like the town park was built, that was one stage to build it, but they have to have people to manage the grounds, you have to have people to manage the programming, and that requires resources, time, and effort, but that's something that comes down the line, and that's why it's in my plan. And I
Right.
think that will be important, but there's other,
Yeah.
lots of pieces that can go along with this as we develop those sites out.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm trying to get to now, because there's a whole laundry list that came out
I mean-
of our focus groups.
I mean, you go down to other cities and places, they have like the city bikes and stuff. Why don't we have like Chesapeake paddle boards?
Yeah, that's exactly what, you know, I
Right.
gave
That's
that
So we could have a little-
illustration
we could have a little
of Miami
paddleboard
Beach.
rental,
what my dad-
Chesapeake Bank
yeah.
or the bank, or somebody could sponsor that and put their
Yeah.
logo on it. We hire a teenager to go down there during the summer, rent out the paddle boards, create a small job, create opportunity. Those types of things can happen, but we've got to get to
Yeah.
the first piece, which is executing the building of a facility or executing the construction of these sites.
Yeah.
And then the next phase is to put those pieces in and build those partnerships and make those pieces happen. Once we have, sort of like, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
So-
I have a template set up, and I'm trying to capture all this ball in smart sheets that is going by subcommittee, by accountability, with a time frame for accomplishment, so we can see it all on like one sheet. And it's gonna be a lot, but at least it lets us see what overlays
Right.
what, and what carries a price tag with it, because that ultimately is gonna be a huge constraining factor, because we can
Right.
We can,
say all
yeah.
these things we want,
Right.
but also when you see them all aggregated, you go, oh man, we can't do that.
Yeah, that's,
It's like my capital budget I get every year from all the departments.
yeah.
Can't do that.
You got a wish list, right?
Can't
You
do it.
tell them to brainstorm in the wish list.
Right.
Well, you won't
Yeah.
accomplish any of them if you don't have the plan and then try to say, okay, we need to do these things, how can we make them happen over a
Right.
period of time?
Or
Well,
you
so,
say yes to something, and then something that was not planned comes down, and you go, shoot, I wish we kept our powder dry for that one.
Right.
Yeah.
So getting
Right.
them all together is gonna
Yeah.
help us prioritize.
that's the word, prioritizing. Yeah, and it may be, realistically, the Tri-Way Trail is a hot button, but if it's too expensive, we may only be able to do segments of it
Right.
in this time frame we're dealing with.
And like why these meetings are important, I think I think the Public Education Committee, we have to message the Tri-Way Trail to set expectations, because
Right.
clearly the pace that we're on is out of whack with what the public thinks. is
That's
Right.
correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they have no idea that it costs $1 million a
Yeah,
mile.
we need to message.
They think they're gonna build,
We need to
you
message
know,
the key
a
points
path.
on that, just to
Right.
realign
Yeah.
expectations. Otherwise, people go, those people are just talking, they're not doing anything.
Right,
And I think that's a critical issue for the whole process right now. When I did the focus group in Whitestone for Paul, we have to be careful that we're not lighting a candle that we can't sustain
Right.
right now.
Correct.
Because there is pent-up demand. There is a clear sense of, I would like amenities as I know them from somewhere else, even though I'd like it with a slower pace of life. But there is an expectation that certain things can happen just like they happen in other more urban areas. And part of that is, can you create this immediate recreation plan for me and my family? And the short answer is, we can't create an immediate recreation plan, so we're going to have to temper that in some way. And part of that, getting these goals and objectives, I think, will help us not oversell it. And that's the
Exactly.
risk we're in right now, is the oversell, I think.
Yeah, I think people can think it can get done faster than it possibly can, but it certainly can get done faster than we're currently going on some of these things. Like I said, we have projects that are
yeah.
basically shovel-ready and ready to go.
Right.
Those projects the shovels need to go in the ground tomorrow,
Yeah.
basically.
Well, and then we'll kind of figure that out. I mean, you'll press on the buttons you can press on, and I think from the communications point of view, we can need to tie all that together so that as an example, when that letter from the Board of Supervisors goes out, it's going to trigger some needs for more information. It's going to trigger disbelief. It's going to trigger all these things, and we're going to need to have secondary and tertiary plans for that. And that kind of frankly, that's my worry based on where some other things are, that we're going to launch this letter, and there's going to be this big void afterwards because we don't have enough things coming through the pipeline to at least get people to focus in on. We got to give them something to focus in on.
And that's why I think with the
Next.
Tri-Way Trail, the exciting part is to actually build some of it right away
Correct.
as soon as we can. That first segment that Jimmy basically already owns, controls, and we can start on without any sort of other
Right.
really issues other than just money. And if it only costs a couple $100,000 is what he was saying, then we should start on that tomorrow, basically. That's in terms of operating our budget here, $200,000 is small change compared to what the benefit of that half a mile segment would be.
And as long as we set the expectation, as an example, I'm not suggesting this is the answer, but if we set the example of Tri-Way Trail is coming, phase 1 will be first quarter 23.
Yeah.
Of what, gives us time to figure out the grant sequence, so we know that it's a reasonable time frame. People can live with that. People can live with what you tell them.
And man,
So-
some of these trails take 20, 25, 30 years. In places like Fredericksburg, they've been working on the capital trails and
Right.
stuff for a long time in incremental segments and get grants as it goes along. And that's kind of to me, you would get more traction from federal government grants if you're actually on an active project.
Correct,
Because they can
you
say,
do.
oh, well, they're
You do.
serious about building this and we'll throw in the money to do the remaining 10 miles of it because they've already built a mile of it and they're serious and got a serious plan in place.
Yeah, well, you guys are exactly where I am. And that's why I was trying to say, we've got to get.
Action, action, action,
Yeah,
action.
we need
Boots, boots,
action.
boots.
Right, we do, and on the Tri-Way Trail, we talk about nodes off the trail. We've talked about an arts node, we've talked about an exercise node. Well, we can get the YMCA and the hospital together, and that land in behind there is already, we've already had some discussions years ago about creating an exercise trail through there. I know from being on the YMCA board that they're really interested in partnerships like that. So we need to get that together, because whether the trail is built or not, we can do that exercise point.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Yeah, and we can fund that exercise, point. We can get that node operating, and then maybe, 9 months from now, the trail comes from Compass to that exercise node.
I mean, it seems to me
Yeah.
they're already getting ready to open to the first node. The disc golf course is practically complete, and I think they're
Yeah.
just finishing signage. So, I
Right.
mean, there's a success story and accomplished that's gotten done.
Yeah.
Boots on the ground, people working, the job got done.
Right.
And in a basic reasonable time frame.
Exactly. And I
Another
feel-
year from now, we
Yeah.
could have that fitness park open. We could be working on maybe the sculpture part that Jimmy wants to do.
Right.
We could start on those things now, because if you want to have sculptures, we could start looking to local artists and local ideas to
Right.
put in that park.
But like you said, Jason, it takes time and people. And we're a volunteer committee. And I know everyone's dedicating a tremendous amount of time to it. And that's why
That's why it's important to get stuff done, because people over time that volunteer their time and then the wheels just spin in the mud
Right.
and they don't see any fruit from their work, get tired, and eventually they get through the process of what government does to people too often. They get bogged down in the process, get bored, say they're not gonna ever get anything done, and then bow out and leave. And then the cycle starts again with new volunteers. And you make such slow incremental progress, which makes no sense half the time, especially considering some of the things we've got going now that should already be started. And we got to get ahead of that process and stop it from happening, or else this whole thing is going to spin into that mud again, and we'll be spinning and spinning and spinning. And I've seen it too often my entire time on the board, and at this point, it's just becoming extremely frustrating.
Well, I can tell you from the Whitestone presentation last week, Randy Reeves, I think, who's the mayor, is extremely skeptical that we can accomplish anything.
What-
That's an opportunity.
Yeah, and that gave me more passion to make sure we can do it.
Yeah.
I left that meeting the other night a little bit frustrated. And the Whitestone Town Council was the least engaged of any group that I've approached yet.
Well, I mean, I need no need to, we're,
I was totally impressed with the presentation they gave to our housing tour of the things that they have going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Patrick-
They're putting some infrastructure in
Yeah.
place that is much
Yeah.
needed.
I had less engagement, but then Patrick calls me up the other day and says, I want to serve on your committee. Yeah, so, but there was not a whole lot of engagement.
But Pat gets it. I mean, Pat lives in that world of
Right.
developing, if you will. And he, I
Right.
mean, and what they're doing down there, I mean, it's, just to give him the props, Randy has politically supported it with the political will, which is amazing, but the boots on the ground piece, I mean, Pat Frere is doing some serious heavy lifting.
they've got, they're actually accomplishing it. They got sewer work,
Serious
and
stuff.
they're making goals and making steps toward. They may not be engaged in what we're doing or really buying into what we're doing right now, because they're really focused on their town and getting those things done, but props to them, they're getting it done.
Exactly.
And this summer, you're gonna start seeing the work and the revitalization and the stuff taking place, so they're getting it done, and so the people can say, you know what, they may be old school, but they're getting the job done.
Right.
They're our front door, they're helping us.
Yes, they are.
That's exactly right. So,
So Paul,
I don't know, yeah.
Just in general, I think we spend a lot of time talking recreation. I think we're trying to be a committee as a whole. I think
Right.
with recreation stuff, we should just go, yeah, there's a lot to be done, there are goals. Let's, I think, my perspective, I think we could get to our plan better if we were able to just sit in on some of those committees and sort of distill what we want in the format we want and
Well,
then bring it back to this.
yeah. Now, we are, basically, some of us are on multiple committees.
Right.
Right. And this committee right here, I put up on the board, this is what we originally said. And so we may need to look at this.
Paul,
screen.
do you have the sample document that I sent you that was working on my strategies?
Yes.
Could you bring that up on the screen?
Let me see if I can find it.
While he's doing that, Jeff, do you think from our overarching communications committee that while we need the whole of everybody's work, I'm thinking that we need to synthesize into some critical first deliverables, maybe, in terms of what we produce out, because if we shared everything to everybody, I think people would just gag and go,
No, I
I'm
think
overwhelmed.
Our committee needs to sort of share everything with everybody for this.
In here,
committee.
for sure, yeah.
But as far as what we push out, I think we need to be very modest, early victories, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, top 3, top 5 kind of
Just
stuff, yeah.
Sort of
Okay.
moderate expectations a little bit, because I'm with you. I think everyone's expecting everything tomorrow, and I think we haven't even attributed price tags to some of this.
Right.
And that's gonna be a wake-up call.
Yeah, because I think there is a lack of understanding about how the money where the money comes from and how much is needed for any given project. I mean, the general consumer, what you deal with at your residential life is nowhere near what happens on these larger scale projects. And I think the order of magnitude is just so vast that some people get completely overwhelmed, when they hear it's a $5 million project.
People don't understand the bureaucracy of a government executing a building contract versus
Yeah.
an individual doing it. Like, there's all kinds of regulations and rules.
Oh,
and
for sure.
that
Yeah, for
we
sure.
have to follow that.
Oh, for sure.
If you were building a house and going to bank and getting a loan and building it, you wouldn't have
Yeah.
to follow.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And expenses.
That public-private partnership term a lot. That can be a whole spectrum of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know there's probably legalities from municipalities, part of what they even can do.
Right.
And how you structure it, and then how it's in mutual best interest, and it's not just a giveaway on the municipality's part, that
There's accountability and clawback and all that
We've
stuff,
gotta
yeah.
just get an understanding to all that, but to peg public-private partnerships as one of our pillars of how we're gonna do it, I think we gotta really understand what that means and what that looks like.
Jeff, do you think, I know we're kind of doing some subcommittee work here in the whole committee, but I'm thinking about the totality of all these various subcommittees and all the individual moving parts. And I don't know that we can monitor that and refine it for the committees. They're gonna have to do their own work.
Correct.
But I also think we're gonna need to ask them, I'm thinking about your document, we're gonna need to ask them to get to the critical few and the prioritization.
Correct.
So that that needs to come to us as a prioritization. We don't need, as communications, to be figuring out, we'd like one from you and one from you and one from you. Because it may be that these three committees are gonna have topics right at the front of the list. These issues are gonna be at the bottom of the list and may not get dealt with for quite a while.
Well, they might be, and that's why I think if you put it on some sort of
Exactly.
Gantt chart, that's gonna help. It might be equally important, but we know we can't touch it till 2027.
Right,
So
exactly.
it's an A priority, but it's out there.
Mhm.
And I think that will help when we deliver a plan to the Board of Supervisors going, you know, there
Because
was
we
chaos.
need this Board of Supervisors to anoint this plan, because it may outlast many elections, or, several iterations of elections, and then, and I think it's true in county government, I know it's true in towns, you can't always commit a future board
Oh, no, we
with a
can't.
decision today.
I mean, we
But
gotta
you-
put this plan in place and hope that new boards will come in and
And endorse it,
enhance it
yeah.
and make it better as they change over time, but
But if we can load the capital plan and we can load the comp plan, I mean, I'm envisioning that out of this piece will come a revision and a mandate from the board to update the comp plan to include or endorse this segment as an addition to the comp plan.
yep, exactly.
So that it has continuity,
So it,
3
yeah,
elections from now.
And it has a plan to like look and fund it over the term of
Exactly. Right.
5 years and then 5 years more. This is, I mean, 2035 is quite a few years out, so this, more than likely, the members that are sitting on this board today in 2035 will not be sitting on this board in 2035.
Right. Right.
Some of us might not be live in 2035.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd
But-
rather not
but
say
one-
that,
one
wouldn't
of the
we, Jeff?
things that we also discussed.
at this
that I
rate in
think is very
2035,
relevant.
nothing will be done.
We
Great plan.
think, yeah, Jason, we got it, it's gonna be done. We're gonna get it done, right? Once we build this plan, then I see this committee continuing to function as implementation arm for the Board of Supervisors. That we come before the board several times a year. We bring the plan up in front of them, and we talk about the progress we're making based on the
Definitely.
objectives and the goals. And I can see that as a continuous action for the next decade or more, indefinitely.
Yeah, because I mean, as the plan needs to be revised or
Right.
what have you needs to happen.
Yeah, now, I can't find yours, but this is the final draft of the letter basically going out. This is the copy you're submitting, right?
Yeah, is that version 6? Should be the last one.
Where is your version number?
It's be in the file name. It
Is that
should be
Jessica Davis in
fine.
there?
It's
That
got
was-
Jessica, yeah, then that's the last one.
That's the last version.
Yep.
Yeah. This is what will be going out. And Jason, what email address did you use to send
I
me that?
can't remember exactly. I was trying to look at, see what if I could find the
Yeah,
name
I
of the
couldn't- I
fame. It
couldn't
was a
find
Google
it.
document of some kind.
Yeah, it was very, very good. And that's what we need to.
It was
more
like
develop.
public access sites or planning or.
Right, you had all of that with, yeah.
And so I'd listed different sites and then kind of like laid out what kind of
Yeah.
needed to happen at each site and the
Right.
preliminary dates and timelines. And I think that's kind of what we need to do for each strategy now, is start to kind of lay out that
Exactly.
format.
Yeah.
And then, like, that's why I said we have a sort of a template for the final document. I can go ahead and just put my develop 3 recreation sites. One's
Yeah,
gonna be
and-
Windmill Point, the timeline for da-da-da-da. The one's gonna be Thomas Landing, da-da-da-da-da.
Right, and then you got to get inputs from like me and Jimmy on the other parts that you're, because you're in charge of that overall strategy, so you need to get the inputs from us. That's sort of where we stand. I think we're just rehashing a lot of stuff. We do have a lot of other committees that we haven't really talked about, but each one of us is on those committees. And that's, that was an intentional thing, so that we would get the inputs back to the central committee.
So
yeah.
Paul, a suggestion, I'm just thinking for the committee chairs that aren't present today, I think going back to, that's probably just Don and Jessica, I think, that aren't with us. And
Billy.
Bill Lee, I'm sorry. But I'm thinking about the committee chairs. I don't think Bill is a committee chair. But in any event, we need to make sure that those committee leaders kind of understand the process and understand the deliverable so that, you know, when we say, hey, we need this within the next 30 days, we need to know where everybody is, that Don and Jessica know kind of what the expectations.
Well, I have an update meeting on Saturday with the Public Access Committee at Windmill Point to kind of review that plan and get that on their radar.
Okay.
Like I said, that project is becoming time sensitive really because of the conditions down there.
Is that the kayak launch, Jason?
No, this is the beach at the Windmill Point. At the
Just
end.
the beach.
They have to build a public pier and stuff down
Oh,
there.
and a
so-
public pier there, okay.
and enhance the beach access, but it's the erosion process and the concern with the residents is growing exponentially by the day, and if we don't start making some serious progress there, we're gonna lose traction on
Gotcha.
working together with them, because they're gonna proceed on their own, because their houses will wash away if they don't. Can't wait for the speed of government at this rate. Again, we've had that permit in hand since January, and we've not made any progress. There's some issues with things going on, and so we need to get that worked out and moving forward rapidly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Susan, answering your question, this is a document I sent out
Right.
last October.
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
think Jessica's new to this process. She hasn't been able to
Yeah,
attend
well,
any.
I'm meeting with her.
She's
yeah.
going to need a kind of a leg up on what the expectation is, and Don just needs to know that, you know, that just a quick update on,
And you see,
broadband would be
I think,
helpful.
Jeff, I've talked about in this document everything that we've mentioned, right? Monetary impacts and items to bring before the Board of Supervisors should be back to the CBRAC for discussion. We'll combine any budgetary needs so that they're making one comprehensive request. Try to use this process to articulate your work, using the strategy, define the objectives, create goals that are measurable and tangible. There may be multiple objectives for a strategy and multiple goals for each objective. If appropriate, create a very high-level budget for each. Here's the committee assignments. Housing committee, this was just the board assignments. Some of the other people were considering partnerships, broadband, communications, recreation, and education. Okay, that went out in October, and so I need to re-emphasize this
I think,
and update it.
yeah, I will, maybe this will accompany it, but I think we need to give folks a form.
Right.
Say,
I agree.
Just really, just
Yeah.
spoon feed it,
Yeah.
say,
Now the
whatever
process.
thoughts y'all have,
Yeah.
we need it at the end of the day on this.
and
Now,
will,
the
and will
process
your
is pretty
form
good.
that you're working on for your spreadsheet, or your Gantt chart, will that serve as the form, or do we need a separate one?
I would rather have a separate input form, because I'm still figuring out the smart sheet thing myself.
Okay, well, let me offer this, because I've built out a PowerPoint presentation for Paul using the new templating stuff, and we're going to ultimately, we'll probably get fed into a PowerPoint presentation. If I template you one out for info and send it to you,
That'd be great.
will that help?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. Because I just know ultimately where it's going to come back to, so we might as well have people pre-format it in that form. Just-
Yeah.
Maybe we only have to do it once.
You know, I mean, once we start working on the final plan document, that could be a Google Doc and it can be shared with everybody. We
Right.
can
Right.
work on it in real time and collaboratively together and at the same
Yeah,
time.
exactly. Because we can put all that, are you working in a Google, Google Sheets?
It's on Smart Sheets.
Smart
which is
Sheets?
in the cloud.
It's in the cloud, so, yeah, we have all that cloud capability. So that'll work.
All right. So I'm going to update this and reference your smart sheets and reemphasize it. We have different committee members on some of these committees. I've got,
I mean, I think we still need to continue to push to get the job description, or the job description written, but that position posted, and that was, we mentioned that last week, but it still hasn't, last month, but it still hasn't been done.
I completed that and gave it to Don February 25th.
I think that's probably one of the biggest constraining factors now is that we're all volunteers.
It most definitely is. I mean, there's only but so much time. We all have busy schedules, we all work and have things going on. There's only but so much time you can dedicate to this, and that's where I'm at. I've dedicated a lot of time, and it's become increasingly frustrating that nothing's making progress, even simple things that could be done.
Yeah.
And
Well,
honestly, the stuff Jimmy's done while having a capital campaign going on, doing the housing.
Jimmy's been
doing
amazing.
the recreation on the Tri-Way Trail, he's like.
Oh, yeah.
The Tri-Way Trails, in my opinion, on a warp drive process going forward compared to where most of these other things are, that we actually have permits in place and things
Well,
that we could be building right now.
It shows you what a singular focus, though, can deliver. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Jimmy doesn't have anything else going on, because he's got plenty going on. But the ability to kind of be laser beamed on something, he's got consultants there helping him, he's got funding for that. So, I mean, I'm thinking Jimmy probably has the equivalent of maybe 2 people in total working on the Tri-Way Trail.
Yeah.
You know, between his consultants and him and Lara, there may be the equivalent 2 FTEs. We don't have another single project we got 2 FTEs on. And that's just that's the impact of putting resources at a
But we have
circumstance.
the resources and the board's will to do that, and we just
I know you
need,
do.
it needs
Yeah,
to
I know you do.
happen.
You just need to
It needs
execute on it.
happen by
Yeah,
June
I need to
30th, which
execute
is
on
the
it.
deadline we set for this, and at this point, if it doesn't happen by June 30th, I think the board needs to respond to that.
Yeah, and Jason, when you talk about something like the Tri-Way Trail and your willingness to recommend some funds to go in to create a segment, I think you need to go into it knowing how much the whole thing is going to cost,
Yeah,
right?
at least
And
in
so-
today's dollars, or have an idea, because.
Yeah, you need to say, okay, it's going to cost $12 million, but if we put $200,000 in, we can get this segment built, okay? And we know we can do that.
Yeah,
And at least, you know, Jeff 2 years ago was talking about a big win, something to show the results of a work. And that could be a tangible item. But we have to know, because if we've got the right-of-ways and if that is accessible, and we could be working on the exercise node at the end,
Yeah.
that would be a nice addition to the county.
Yeah, and I mean,
Even this phase 1 or this segment 1.
even at the end of the day, all we can do in the course of our time here is to build the first section, build the fitness park, connect it to the disc golf course and potentially the sculpture park. That's a big win. That's a big, even if we never get to build the rest of the trail ever, that still would be a great section and a great amenity to have in the county, just that portion.
Yeah, but before you put $200,000 into it, you want to know what the deliverables are and what ultimately it's going to cost.
Oh, definitely. We got to have a full plan in place and at least be shooting to try to incrementally accomplish it.
Yeah,
But I believe Jimmy's making a lot of progress there, and we've got, I think we've got things in the queue that we can make progress on now, and there's no excuse to not be making progress. And that's just where I'm at. We've got to get boots on the ground, we've got to get shovels in the ground, and we've got to make progress on what we can right now.
We also have a win with the acquisition of the property for the school. If we get whatever it is, a community block grant or whatever it is, for the Good Luck Road property, to master plan that would be a win.
that's a huge
Yeah.
win,
That's
yeah.
a big win. The broadband authority, no credit to us, they've landed that airplane, or will by the end of next year.
Right.
So there are wins we can just,
Yeah, and it's the
Yeah, codify
cumulative
them and
effect. It's the
Right.
cumulative
Celebrate
effect.
them.
Yeah,
there's movement on a lot of these. I have no, to me, why this is important is serving on this umbrella committee. I have no earthly idea I found out more about recreation today. I've heard bits and pieces, but I didn't know all the stuff that's concurrent. Schools, I have no earthly idea. I'm sure they've done some stuff, or maybe not with Dan, but, I think as, for lack of a better word, oversight committee, we need to be able to,
Exactly.
rattle this stuff off.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of these pieces are circling around, and there's a lot of things that are already sort of accomplished and done. They just need to be refined out. Like, there's a lot of things that have gone on in the school system that are wins and accomplishments that we've been kind of hinting at, but they've done the early childhood center. We're working on the new elementary school, and we're planning for the new middle high. All those things just need to be written down with timelines, but the goals and the objectives and the strategies are basically already there for education. They're already
It's an
there.
easy story to tell.
These are already fairly easy and compared. We just need to compile it and be done with it, essentially, and then hold everyone accountable to accomplishing what needs to get done on the time frames we've set. And then when that time frame comes and X work's not done, then we need to figure out why and address that issue right then and there.
Right.
So Jason,
And
to
refine the plan.
To that very example, and it's a great microcosm. So the school needs to do a little bit extra lifting in terms of telling their own story. I don't know if they have the bandwidth right now to do it with all the transition. So could the Board of Supervisors or some other entity say, hey, great, let's go hire a person to go tell this quick story, either in video, in social media, in whatever form, written graphic communications. Can we just hire somebody for a couple grand, put them to work, here while kids are still in school and it looks like there's activity, and go ahead and get that done and say, hey, great, here's some assets that you can use to tell the story.
Yeah.
We use them, the Board of Supervisors uses them, school system uses them. I can imagine that Jessica's probably thinking other things on her plate right now besides something as simple as that, but that's needed. Could there be this intervention to say, great, we'll go ahead and pay for that and get it done?
I mean, yeah, I think so. I mean, it would merely have to
I don't know
come
what-
up through the school board, because they're
Yeah.
the ones that
Yeah,
push and
right.
fund the school.
Right.
But it would, the Board of Supervisors could put the funding toward that and direct the school to do it. I think there's lots of stories, like the new childhood center, that's a state-of-the-art.
Right.
Awesome facility. They've been really pushing in Richmond and the federal government for early childhood. This is a big win we're getting ready to
Wonderful.
accomplish. We need to, when they open the door for that, they need to really throw a big splash out with that
Need to blow
and
it
try
out.
to get as much traction as they can.
And I
Because
know-
that's something that will go out in the media, and people are like, hey, they are doing some good things down there in Lancaster. Maybe I want to send my kids to their school system.
Well, yeah, and we've, that is a big win, and getting the school timeframes out there, I think, is important. The other thing that Dan told me that I think was very, very useful in some of my segments, he's created a parents advisory committee that's 4 parents from each of the schools, and he has asked them, if you're having a good experience, post that, because with Zillow High School 2 rating, and they go pretty much by what people are saying, right? And so to promote the wins that we have in the school system, the people that are happy. And there's a lot of happy parents right now. I can just think of some folks that I know. Welby, David Dew, what's her name? Susan at the Bank of Lancaster. Pittman with Eli. They're all very pleased with the education's going. Welby's oldest daughter is going to Auburn University next year. Last year, in dual enrollments, on a percentage basis, Lancaster County High School had the highest percentage of dual enrollments of any school system in Virginia. And West Point had held that for a number of years. We took them over 2 years ago, same this year. Well, that's a win when you tell a parent that your kid can come out of high school with a 2-year college degree and eligible to go into any state-supported university. That's a pretty big deal. And I don't have to do that through going to the governor's school, and it doesn't cost the parent a penny. That's huge. And we got to
Jimmy
tell
made a
those
great-
stories.
Yeah, Jimmy made a great presentation when we did our little tour. If you have a kid now that's going to be in the new elementary school, by the time they finish that, the other schools are going to be there. So
Right.
that's a great selling point for people moving to this
Yeah.
area with a 6-year-old or 10-year-old,
Yeah.
Say, by the time he's finished, or she finished.
And I'll tell you, I've been talking with Jessica Davis quite a bit, and as overwhelmed as she is, she wants to become very actively involved. And she has indicated, with things I've talked to her about Dan had already talked to her about. Dan was communicating very, very well with his inner circle there. And we are talking to the Parents Advisory Committee next week, I think, the next meeting. I am.
Don't know.
Unless I call on one of you guys and say, hey, will you do that? But Jessica, we've been texting and calling back and forth for the last several weeks. So I think we can get her on board. We can bring her up to speed to talk about some of that. And like you said, this group, some of the projects are not under our control whatsoever. Virtually nothing is when you come down to it. But we are the ones that have to come out with the plan for others to enact, to develop. And I'm pretty excited about it because I think we can do it. Jason, I understand your frustration. I understand my own frustration. I feel like I have not done enough and that I should be much further along in what I'm doing.
This committee has done more in the last 6 months than anything possible to lift this plan that started in 2015 when I held a retreat at Stratford Hall. So I'm happy that y'all have done, don't be hard on yourself because you've done a tremendous work to volunteer to get this lifted to where we are today. And everyone should give you a round of hand.
Well, thank you, but we got a long way to go.
This committee has made a lot of progress of moving the ball forward. Now it's time for this board to make the plan, make execution a priority.
Yeah, and to be honest, we got to get those objectives and goals so you have something to execute with financial costs, just like it says there. Even if we don't have the details, we need to have a rough budget for each item, and start putting that together. The same with your water access, and if we're going to do any construction.
I'm ready to get the RFP and award the contract and start working with the architect and engineer to start giving me preliminary drawings and ideas for all these sites, and then give me numbers and then start executing the plan. I'm ready. I've been ready. I'll start. Like I said with Jimmy, let's start tomorrow.
Right.
Let's get going.
Yeah.
I'm tired of meeting and tired of talking. I want to be out on the construction site with a shovel and a hard hat.
Yeah. But as a supervisor, you need to know the composite of what everything is going to cost over the next 10, 12 years. I know water access is a real hot button, and that's true, and we need to do it. And I understand your willingness to go through, but that's part of a bigger thing. We need to be able to put all the pieces together.
Do we, for this committee, the oversight committee, do we have a goal of when we would like to submit a plan to the board of supervisors? And then that will dictate what we need to work back from these subcommittees.
Well, I've been saying for the last couple of months, I'd like to be able to come to the board of supervisors by their July meeting with the objectives and goals, and that's not possible sitting here in May.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I started saying in January.
I do think it's still possible because I think a lot of it's already drafted. A lot of these things are already in the works. We just got to put them to paper.
There's a lot that we could put to paper.
And it doesn't have to be even if it's not comprehensive in July, we can have what we have already in the works laid out in a format that we're going to be using for these few things. I've got a number of strategies and goals. Every team has at least one or two that they're working on and already are actually being worked. They just need to be written down.
So maybe we'll start with the highest priority ones and just try to address the supervisors. These are the highest priority things that we're working on.
I don't know, are they looking for sort of a nice buttoned-up plan from us, or are they looking for a work in progress, something to approve? I don't know.
Eventually, I think we want to document that we can adopt and then refer to as under recreational strategies, we're planning to do X, Y, and Z in these times. So in the months in planning, we can say, okay, well, this deadline's coming up in July to get this thing done. And do we have the resources in place as the contractors or whatever, all the decisions have been made to move that project forward. And then, like I said, when we get to that date, and if it's been done, then we check it off and say accomplished. If it hasn't, then we evaluate why it wasn't accomplished on the date that we set and try to set a new date and work toward that goal. Or else we evaluate and say, we're not going to no longer do that part. We're going to replace it with this. And so that's how I see this kind of unfolding. And right now, it's just a matter, I've got mine, I just need to kind of put those strategies and refine them out a little bit more in that template plan. And like I said, that's why we can get a template for that final document. We can each committee can just start feeding in their goals and putting in their strategies and then their different timelines or whatever pieces that go along with that.
Well, we still got to reconcile all of it and
Right.
decide what we're
Yeah,
going to put
there's gonna be
in.
a lot of,
I don't know where we stand right now, and I see what you're saying. But I don't know if we can come up with an intelligent presentation by July.
I totally agree.
Yeah, now, I think you continue to work on your public access, because that's all pretty much been approved and bought. And that's the centerpiece of recreation. So I would want to, wouldn't want to slow that down.
But even if you go to something like small business or jobs recruitment, we've got already a strategy or goal in place working with the EDA, who's got a grant program to do small business recruitment. That can be part of the plan and part of the strategies.
Yeah, I think on that, we have to specifically, being on the EDA.
We've got specific things.
We need to be more clear how the EDA plugs into the jobs committee.
Yeah, and,
work all that
right,
stuff out.
and that's why it's critical that we have a meeting on that jobs committee the next couple of weeks.
On the spectrum, Paul, of presenting something earlier to the Board of Supervisors that might feel like more of a work in process, to the spectrum of having things totally nailed down and getting them to opine on what looks like a somewhat finished document. I'm more on that end of the spectrum. I'm concerned that we go with something loosey-goosey, and I'd rather take an extra couple months, I guess is my point, and have it a little bit more definitive. We know it's going to change the day after it gets approved. We know that, but I think something tighter, I think, would be helpful to them, and it'd be helpful for us from an accountability perspective. That's where I fall on that.
Because I think at the end of the day, what will be most helpful for the Board of Supervisors is to say, not only here we want to give you the knowledge of the plan, but then here are the action steps that we need you specifically to take. Either be informed, endorse, provide funding, provide resourcing for. And I think the closer we are to that prioritization, the easier it will be for the board members and to say, yeah, I'm good on thumbs up. I think if it's a little too out there, then it's going to put a lot of burden on you and Bill, frankly, to do a lot of education in between meetings as to what's important and why it's important. I think if we can lay that out in a more definitive fashion, the easier your and Bill's job will be in terms of the total body.
And the other thing that I feel is we have a 10-member committee. And in this 10-member committee, when we mention the names, everyone nods approval because we all are very credible. We don't have a speckled past. We're not trustworthy.
You're putting a lot of pressure on Paul.
Yeah, we don't have, we talk about Julian Patterson, all good things come on. Jeff Sapersky, all good things come on. Susan, all good things come on. Yeah, Roy.
Yeah, Roy. We got you covered, Roy. Don't worry.
So what I'm saying is, we are we have credibility with the audience that we're serving. We don't want to do anything that damages that credibility.
Correct.
Because what we go out and what we say, people believe. And we
Right.
don't want them to go, when we talk, we want people to understand and believe. We don't want them to be skeptical because we can't deliver on what we say.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I think, related to what I said before, I was having a semi-finished plan. Your committee, of which we're on, we need to make sure, long before it gets to the Board of Supervisors, that we feel like we've educated all the constituencies we need to.
Right.
I know you've been doing a boatload of presentations. I don't know who they're with. Are there segments?
I'll get you a list.
Are there segments we haven't touched yet?
Yes.
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 So we need to make sure we have educated before that Board of Supervisors meeting, so it's not like a big fat hairy mystery, and they're like, where did this come from?
Yeah. The big one left is the all-member meeting of the Chamber of Commerce. That has not been scheduled. And that's a big one.
Yeah. I think all of our committees should be.
But the one of the things, and this is down in the, a little bit in the weeds for us, but the feedback that I got that was very specific in the committee that the focus group that I did in Whitestone, our demographic within these focus committees tends to be of one flavor.
Right.
We do not have representation from the African American community, or we haven't had a lot. We don't have a lot from socioeconomic groups that are not at middle class and above. So at some point in our timeline, we have got to get beyond people who are kind of already in the mindset of progress.
And that's part of the reason why this school advisory committee is very important.
Yep.
Because of the demographic.
I'm sure, yeah. And maybe we can use some of those, but my next tee up for us is to look at that list of who we've spoken with,
Right.
figure out how to broaden that, and what are the vehicles we need to use to broaden it.
Right. All right. So let's sort of wrap this up. We've got to focus on objectives and goals. We've got our strategies, they've all been approved. We know what our committee assignments are because they're right there. And you're developing a template.
She's gonna send me something
And we're going to use that.
Push it out.
I'm going to get with each committee head that's not here today and go over the relevant content of what we've spoken about. We need to get some of these committee meetings going so that we can get some preliminary objectives with goals back.
And Paul, would it be helpful, and I'm not saying we need to do this, but as a committee chair, would it be helpful to those folks that people don't freeze up when they see that 2035, that we're asking them for fairly definitive plans in the, 1 to 3 year range, maybe looser, 3 to 7, and then potential long-term, so at least they get like recorded, you know what I mean? They might be pie in the sky.
Yeah, well, that's sort of what I was trying to
that
get
would
at
help.
with this illustration I did on recreation.
Yeah.
You may have 3 water access sites, but maybe one of them doesn't come online for 5 or 6 or 7 years, But to be able to develop that timeline with some type of relative goals, seeing what we can do in the short run, what's going to be medium, what's going to be longer. Yeah, I agree 100%.
And that would help the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah.
Give them that final plan, they're like, to Jason's point, over the next 10 years, we might need to be thinking this way.
Right.
Versus over the next budget cycle, this is what we can do.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what I'm talking about. So we all good?
I'm good.
All right?
Yep.
All right, so our next meeting by Susan's schedule is,
I sent that out yesterday to everybody with a calendar invite. Everybody should have got that yesterday.
second Wednesday, 10 o'clock.
Yep.
And let's see if we can have some committee reports and some objectives written for each strategy. Doesn't have to be comprehensive right now, as Jason was saying, but we got to be moving on them, especially the higher priority ones.
June the 8th.
Do we have any date, Jason, as to when the Assistant County Administrator job is going to be posted, or?
No, at this point, no. I mean, we said to post it, gave him direction to go ahead and post all those jobs immediately, and I think the planning position has been posted, but there's been no progress on posting the assistant job that I know of. I mean, we gave him a goal, and his goal is this year of June 30th, so that's the date that I think we should hold it to.
Yeah. So, just
Is that to
to,
get it posted or to get it filled?
To get it filled, which every day that passes makes that more difficult.
yeah. Let me ask you a question.
Position, isn't that
If there was,
hard position to fill?
Damn straight, it's gonna be really hard. to fill.
yeah,
We
so,
want a sparkly unicorn.
Right.
so last year you had approved $75,000 for the position, right?
It's been in the budget for some time, and money's not the issue holding it back. I mean, the
Right.
board will fund it at whatever rate it takes to get the job done at this point.
Right, and so let me ask, 85? So if we,
Jeez Louise,
yeah.
I'll be over.
And so I just want to ask that. So if it goes through June 30th and none of it's spent, it's all over. That's not cumulative in any way. It's all another 85,000's in the new budget for the next year.
Yeah, it's just annual budget amount. I mean, it's just, a budget's a budget. I mean, it's what we're shooting toward that position. But if it ended up costing 90,000 or 100,000 to fund the position, that's what it cost.
What would it take if,
Coming out of retirement, yeah.
yeah, what would it take if we needed some sort of administrative support to go with Don and that position?
I mean,
Someone that come to these meetings and take minutes.
I mean, we had Zena Middleton before. That's another position that needs to be filled, really. I mean, we're short on all these positions, in my opinion, since for quite a long time now, that if people retired or left and their positions were just never filled and their duties were just kind of assigned to other people. And I think it's reached a point now where people are getting burned out and you're seeing people leave the county. And I believe it's a direct result of overburden and not having the proper staff in here, and everybody's workload has increased to the point where they're at their breaking point now and they're leaving. That's just the way I feel it. I mean, no one's pretty telling me that, but I can look around at staff. I've been in school districts long enough to see this happen, and I know it's happening in this building because I can look on people's faces, and they might not want to come out and say what's going on, but you can look at their faces and know that they're under a lot of stress and a lot of burden, and their job is getting more and more complicated by the day because they don't have the support or enough staff to accomplish the job, so they just keep getting more stuff added to their plates.
Now, and all those positions are appropriated in the next budget cycle that you're talking about, the ones that have been eliminated?
I don't know if I don't think Zena's was ever put back in the budget necessarily, but the budget for this year hasn't been approved, so anything can be added to the budget.
What I'm saying is, wouldn't it be great if we had someone that was taking some of these minutes, taking some of the administrative burden off of us, and could help with the follow-up with the different?
Yes, I totally agree. I mean,
think
right
we
now,
could
we
work-
only have one administrative assistant, which is Crystal, who does everything in building. She's also the board secretary, and it's really just too much work for one
No, she
person. The board needs a board secretary. If we had our own secretary whose job was nothing but board work, they could be doing exactly what you're doing right now.
Does she cover planning questions too?
Yes, I think so.
She's just too overworked to even.
So
have-
everybody in this building is overworked. Glenn, aren't you overworked? Could you use an assistant? Could you use some backup support and things that are definitely necessary because there's too much workload for you to get it all done every day?
Yes, we're working. I've had a conversation with Don, and he's definitely thinking that direction. We just need to put together, a job description and go from there.
But I mean, if we continue at the rate that we've done for, say, the assistant county administrator, you'll be retired before that person is even on board.
All right. Well, we don't need to belabor that. What I'm saying is, if we had some regular support here, I think we could be moving this thing along a lot quicker.
Well, you have my full support to make that happen.
I'm going to talk.
And I
to
think
Doug
you
about it.
would have support from the other board members because the board knows the county, the staff is short and everybody's overworked, but the problem is not getting solved, and it's not getting solved very quickly, especially when we can't even get the positions posted to even interview people,
Right.
to even try to get somebody in the door, which is going to be incredibly difficult when somebody reads that job description and what they're going to get paid for it. I would look at that and be like, I want $180,000 to do all that. That's a directorship job. That's like an executive director of a foundation.
Yeah, well, I think what's going on with Don is he's so overwhelmed that he's just dealing with the hottest fire. And that's not a way to operate. Yeah. It's not.
Especially not a
long-
county government, because it's only going to build bigger and a bigger problem as it's done every day for the last year. It's
Yeah.
just festering and getting bigger and bigger, a bigger problem.
Yeah, he's got, yeah.
Like, my assessment would be, to the extent we are putting our foot on the accelerator, we're just making the problem worse in the
Right.
short term. It's sort
Exactly.
of like flogging will continue until morale improves.
Yeah.
So I think we need to, that's sort of like a critical building block that we need to have, and then we can,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. To me, we need the assistant accounting administrator here helping, because that's going to take care of a lot of the stuff that I'm doing and you're doing. We can have that person doing, and some sort of just administrative assistant. For all my work career, I've always had one or two of them with every job that I've had, and my throughput has been good because I've had that person that knows more about what I'm doing than I do.
But that is not the mindset in local government, just so you know, because the taxpayer doesn't believe that those positions are incredibly valuable.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, I would have never survived for as long as I did without him. And so I.
Well, it's my job to make government work for people, and when government works for people, I can say those costs are worth every penny because the
Yeah.
government is working for you and it's getting the job done. When I get calls and say people won't return their phone calls, or I can't get action, or I can't get anything done, that's when they look to say, well, why are we paying for this stuff if nothing gets done?
Right.
If it cost $1 million and everyone got what they wanted from the government, no one would question it. No one would question it, almost no one would. People start questioning government when there's no action, or they get stonewalled or run into a brick every time they try to do something.
Yeah.
Government should work for the people. It's
Right.
there for the people. It shouldn't create obstacles for the people.
Is that a campaign speech?
Yeah, he's passionate about it. So what you're saying is we need effective government, not ineffective government.
Exactly.
We've got, and I think we could have a much more effective committee if we had some staff person to rely on. And I'm going to talk to Don about that and see if he can get something added in, even if it's an hourly person that only works with us and is committed for 30 hours.
This stuff is not, in my opinion, this stuff is not up to Don. This is up for us to tell Don to do. Don is our employee. Don works for the Board of Supervisors. Don doesn't tell the board what to do. The board needs to set goals, objectives, and then hold this administration to making those things happen.
But if he's so busy, it's sort of a chicken or the egg argument.
Then it's up for us to figure out why and make it happen. I mean, we seem to be at my point where the board can't get anything done because it's that chicken and egg thing. We're just kind of dancing back and forth, and it's, at some point, we've got to somebody's got to commit the time or commit the resources or the people. And when you're paid as a director or an executive, the hours of the day don't matter anymore. The job matters, getting the job done.
With you.
Yeah.
If Jeff has to wake up in the middle of the night to do bank reports because they're due in the morning, then he's going to be up in the middle of the night doing those bank reports. He's not going to just say, oh, well, I don't have time because I don't have enough staff to do them.
I will say I get a fair amount of I don't have enough to give to, even in my business.
Yeah, no,
You
we
still get it.
understand. You know,
It's everywhere, I get it.
You are actually preaching to the choir. You know, we've all experienced, at some point in our careers, we're all experienced what Donna's going through right now. And I have compassion for that.
I do too.
But I also know that in order for us to work, we need a little bit more support.
Well, I mean, I think you have the full support needed to make those things happen from the Board of Supervisors from a decision standpoint and from a funding standpoint. I don't think those two things are standing in the way at all.
All right, well, I'm going to be talking to Don, asking if we can hire someone part-time as an administrative assistant. And if he wants to piggyback other responsibilities with it, that's fine. But we need some help to do this. And we're saying, I can't imagine if you paid a consulting firm to do what we've been doing, how much money would have been invested by now.
Hundreds, thousands, if
Yeah.
not, I mean, it was the same thing with Fighting Dominion. If we had to pay for all that, it would have been millions of dollars.
Right, right. So Worth County is saving a lot of money by us doing it.
We're fortunate in this county to have the type of people in the volunteer commitment we have, but it's now just a matter of in my opinion, we need to make action.
Right.
And that action has to come from the board and from Don to make it happen.
Yeah. All right.
So our next meeting is the 8th of June,
8th of June.
and the next quarterly all-members meeting of the chamber is that following Tuesday, the 14th.
14th of June?
Yeah.
All right. All right, well, I'll get in touch with them and see if we can get on that.
It's at 8:30 in the morning. Location, I don't know where the location is yet.
Ann told me that she would call a special meeting if need be. Okay?